In the early 17th century, the Swedish military roared onto the European stage, driven by the firepower and ambition of King Gustavus Adolphus. This map shows the sheer scale of the empire they quickly carved out. By the middle of the 1600s, Swedish territory stretched deep into the Holy Roman Empire, while colonial outposts were established as far away as West Africa and North America. Yet, despite commanding this massive global footprint, the Swedish imperial age barely lasted 100 years. Sweden's neighbors, including Russia and Denmark, were aggressive rivals who actively worked to dismantle the empire's borders throughout its short existence. Financial ruin and systemic internal rot meant the state was crumbling long before these rival armies ever crossed its borders. The financial strain appeared almost immediately. When Queen Christina took the throne after her father Gustavus, she inherited an expansive new empire that was incredibly expensive to maintain. Christina was highly intelligent, but she had a taste for extreme extravagance. Her personal spending habits quickly emptied the imperial treasury, pushing the newly formed government to the very edge of bankruptcy. As the bills piled up, public approval plummeted. The nobility and commoners alike grew deeply distrustful of her leadership, ultimately pressuring Christina into stepping down from the throne. Her abdication brought a brief moment of political relief, but the damage was permanent. Right at the inception of its imperial age, Sweden was left politically unstable and completely broke. Her cousin, Charles X, stepped in to clean up the mess. He was immediately met with a crushing national debt and a restless public. To distract his people and find new sources of wealth, Charles turned to military action. He sent his cavalry into the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, treating warfare as a deliberate strategy to secure resources and project strength. The campaign was an intermittent success on the battlefield. Charles earned personal glory, but the scattered victories did absolutely nothing to fix the depleted treasury back in Stockholm. The government avoided building a strong domestic foundation. Instead, the administration simply masked its massive financial liabilities with foreign conquests, passing the structural rot directly down to the next generation. By the time his successor, Charles XI, came of age, the empire had exhausted its options. The national coffers were empty, and high-ranking officials began treating government policy as a commodity for sale to the highest bidder. Desperate to survive, the Swedish leadership effectively became mercenaries for the French crown. For a massive payout, they agreed to invade the electorate of Brandenburg on French orders. This pivot to mercenary warfare backfired. The underfunded Swedish army suffered embarrassing defeats, which triggered the grueling Scanian War and signaled to every regional rival that Sweden's loyalty and its borders could be bought or broken. Realizing the entire system was collapsing, Charles XI forced through drastic domestic reforms. He centralized his own power to create a semi-absolute monarchy and funneled what little money remained into rebuilding the completely demolished Royal Navy. These late-stage adjustments stabilized the state briefly. However, it was too late. The surrounding powers had already seen the empire's severe internal weakness, and they knew the Swedish military could be beaten. This brings us to the final king, Charles XII. He took the crown of a state teetering under the weight of decades of mismanagement. This map shows the geographical trap closing around him. In 1700, a coalition of Denmark, Norway, Russia, and Poland simultaneously declared war. Charles held off attackers for years, but a hollow economy cannot fund a multi-front war indefinitely. Soon, Russian forces pushed inward, absorbing Finland. The breaking point arrived in 1718. Charles XII was killed in battle, effectively ending the empire's organized defense, and permanently reducing Sweden from a global titan back to a regional authority. Armies, treaties, and vast territorial claims are temporary without financial stability and public trust. Ultimately, Sweden proved that no amount of military conquest can compensate for a rotten domestic foundation.